it's that time once again. Gonzaga is gearing up for its 5th game against a ranked opponent already this season as the non-conference gauntlet continues.
This matchup is with a team the Zags are familiar with and one they hope to get a little revenge on.
The Zags are set to take on number 4 Alabama in Birmingham, and we have everything you need to know ahead of the game.
We also have a breakdown of the season so far, player interviews, and the keys to a Zag victory today.
Our Gonzaga-Alabama game preview special starts right now. Good morning and welcome to our Gonzaga pregame special on KREM 2. I'm Travis Green.
And I'm Andrew Quinn. Over the next 30 minutes, we will talk all things Gonzaga basketball and get you prepared for tip-off of today's big game against Alabama at 10 a.m.
Let's start things off by getting you all caught up on the season thus far. The Zags sit at 8-3 heading into today's matchup in Alabama. The Bulldogs opened the season with the win over North Florida, 104-63. Shocking, I know, Andrew. Before hopping aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, and it was on the USS Lincoln where the Zags trailed by as many as 12 points until they were willed back into the game by Drew Timme. After a 6-point first half, Timme exploded for 16 second-half points to give the Zags a late lead. The Spartans did have a chance at the buzzer, but Jaden Aiken's shot could not fall, and the Zags hung on for a gritty 1-point victory, 64-63.
Gonzaga then headed out to old Austin, Texas for a matchup with the Longhorns, who came into the game with just 7 made threes on the season. Then they proceeded to make 13 against GU. Exactly what everyone expected, right? This one wound up being a 19-point rout of the Bulldogs. UT's Tyrese Hunter had 26 points.
Next on the docket was a game Zag fans have been wanting for years, and boy, did they show up for it. That's right, a record crowd of 12,333 fans packed into Spokane Arena to see Gonzaga beat Kentucky 88-72, and we could call this the breakout game for Anton Watson. He had a double-double and that big-time jam.
I would call that the play of the season so far. The Zags also got a great all-around performance from Rasheer Bolton with 24 points, including a pair of threes to stick a fork in the Wildcats. Next up was the PK85 tournament out in the Rose City. The Zags blew past Portland State 102-78 to start things off. That's a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. But then came the Boilermakers of Purdue, and Zag fans everywhere are still having nightmares of Zach Edey. Purdue's big fella went 10 of 16 from the field for 23 points to help the Boilermakers roll GU 84-66.
So a tournament championship was out of the cards, but third place was there for the taking against Xavier, and that's where Julian Strother would have his best game of the season, scoring 23 points en route to an 88-84 victory.
Next up, a big one you can see in the corner there, Andrew. You see in the bottom right there, a rematch of the 2020 National Championship. The Zags headed out to Sioux Falls, South Dakota to face Baylor at Sanford Pentagon.
Gonzaga would lose an 8-point lead late, and Rasheer Bolton's mad dash to the basket layup did not go at the buzzer as the Zags dropped a heartbreaker to Baylor, 64-63.
Now, since that loss, the Zags have rattled off 3 straight victories for the first time this season, defeating Kent State 73-66 in what was a close game. You can thank Drew Timme for 29 points in that one. Then beating Washington 77-60 in a so-called rivalry on Monday, topping Northern Illinois 88-67.
Yeah, Drew Timme averaging over 25 points in that span.
Yeah.
It's time for a quick break, but don't go anywhere. Coming up next, we have a special guest joining us.
We talked to the host of Locked On Zags podcast, Andy Patton, about the season so far and get his thoughts on today's matchup. Next.
Welcome back to our Gonzaga pregame special ahead of today's game against Alabama.
And we're now joined by a special guest, the host of Locked On Zags podcast, Andy Patton. Andy, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Andy, I want to start things off here with the Zags have struggled more this season than we're used to seeing. I know it's been a tough schedule, but what do you think they can do to really right the ship here?
Yeah, I think it really starts on the defensive end of the floor. I think they have to find their identity on that side. Obviously, losing Andrew Nembhard has really impacted them offensively, and I think that's very kind of apparent to fans watching the games. But the loss of Chet Holmgren and what he was able to do as a rim protector, as a rebounder, help get the Zags out in transition. You can feel that that's not there. They have to put more attention into crashing the defensive glass. Can't get out in transition as much. are struggling with their defensive rotations. I really think ironing some of that stuff out and getting to play such a challenging schedule has probably helped them see what some of those weaknesses are and kind of help them find their identity and their ability to iron that stuff out heading into conference play.
Now, Andy, it seems like both of Gonzaga's returning role players this season, Julian Strother and Rasir Bolton, have kind of regressed a little bit, maybe struggled early on this season. What do you think's the reason for that, and what can they do to get back on track?
Yeah, it feels like with Rasir Bolton, at least, it's kind of a bit of a trying to find his role again. And I wouldn't have thought that his role would have changed that much from last year to this year, but obviously, again, he's playing with a different point guard. He's playing with a less experienced point guard. And I think that he hasn't been as aggressive hunting his own shot, whether it's from beyond the arc or even trying to get to the rim. Strother has just been inconsistent. We've seen him look absolutely fantastic at times this year. We've also seen him pull borderline disappearing acts where he's just not contributing at all. And I think for him, it's just about consistency. For Bolton, it's really just about finding what his role is on this team and just walking in on it.
Andy, kind of building off that question, Drew Timme, he's been Superman this season. He's done everything and just carried the team to this point. Who do you think is going to wind up being that number two? Because Gonzaga does need a number two later down the line. Timme can't do everything.
He can't, yeah, and I think it has to be Julian Strother. To be honest, he's got the requisite skill set. He's an outside shooter. He can also get to the rim. He's 6'7", strong, athletic kid, and he was like a 6'5" shooter around the rim last year. This year, that number has dropped significantly. So while he's still contributing well as a three-point shooter, him finding his way to score in other ways, whether it's getting to the free throw line, whether it's getting to the rim, anything like that needs to be ironed out for the Zags, because I think for them to reach their ceiling, he needs to be that consistent number two scorer. And so far this season, he just hasn't been that guy consistently.
Now, Andy, when it comes to the scheduling this year, obviously this non-conference has been a gauntlet. Some Zag fans might think, oh, the sky is falling. They already have 3 losses. But was this scheduling that was done this season, was it too much for this team?
It's kind of one of those questions that I think it's hard to answer until we get into March, because we need to see how this team responds to some of this adversity. Obviously, you have young players in roles that they're not super familiar with. Hickman is a first-time starter. Hunter Salas has seen his role increase. Same with Ben Gregg. And in a lot of ways, those guys have responded very well to some of the adversity we've seen. Look at the performance Ben Gregg had against Purdue, and then that translates to him having 18 points against Northern Illinois. Hunter Salas did some nice things in some of those early games as well. Now he's kind of playing some of the best basketball of his Gonzaga career. So I think there are a few guys who have benefited tremendously from this tough schedule, but until we see how this team responds to conference play, and then, of course, what they do in the NCAA tournament, it's a little hard to know whether this schedule had kind of an adverse effect on the team or whether it was something that actually helped them. We just hadn't seen it.
All right, Andy, he's the best. Thanks for joining us, Andy.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll have Andy on the show later, so stick around. Still to come, we sat down with 2 of the newest Zags who have given the Bulldogs some much-needed depth. Hear from Malachi Smith and Efton Reed next.
Welcome back. Gonzaga welcomed a pair of big-time transfers to the program this season.
Yeah, that's right. Guard Malachi Smith and big man Efton Reed. I sat down with Smith earlier this week to hear about him winning a high school state title, along with the impact his mom's had on his life. In high school, won a state championship, right?
Yeah, I did. We was the first team to win state below Peoria, which is like Chicago pretty much, since Sean Livingston in 2004, I think. And he was NBA, was an NBA for a long time. So what we did was really historic as well. Everywhere we went, people knew who we were, like in the city. So that was cool. That was a good experience too.
The out-of-towners, huh?
Yeah, everywhere. They're like, oh, okay, you guys won state, right? We're like, yeah. We were like trending on Twitter when we won, and like we all took screenshots. We're like, oh my God, we're trending on Twitter, because it doesn't usually happen. Like Chicago always wins. Chicago has so many great players, from Derrick Rose to Jabari Parker and Jalen Brunson. Like they've kind of taken over like all those years, like back to back. Like all of a sudden you have this team from Belleville. You're like, huh? Like so that was something. Yeah, we got to brag for a long time about that.
Smith's taken quite the journey to Gonzaga, starting at Wright State, transferring to Chattanooga, and now in Spokane. But it's something he's used to, as he also made a move in high school. do you think that prepped you? What you went through in high school prepped you for the college?
Yeah, well, my mom was in the military, so we had to move a lot anyway, and some of that was out of our control, you know, so if it's like, hey, we gotta move, like, that's just what it is, like, for work or whatever. But, like, transferring schools, you know, for different reasons, you know, I think it helped prepare me. Like, each school helped my game grow in a different way, in a different aspect that helped me create the player I am today. And I still have a lot of work to do, but I feel like I've came a long way from where I started.
You touched on it a little bit with your mom being in the military. Obviously, moving a lot comes with that, but I imagine a structure, you know, rigid, you know, a tough mindset comes from that. What have you learned from your mom that's helped you with your basketball?
To never quit, to never give up. You know, life is hard, and it's going to throw a lot of different curveballs at you, but you have to be able to not to like pick yourself up whenever it goes that way. Like, don't stay down. You know, she was a single parent, and she was, you know, working and going to school at the same time, trying to raise me. And, you know, I saw her fight and her willingness to, like, not give up and not take no for an answer. So that's kind of been my approach, you know, whether basketball's going good, whether it's not, like, good or bad days, every day's not great, but, you know, never staying down, always fighting and always trying to do more. So I kind of took that from her, like that never say no mentality.
That's awesome. I imagine mom's biggest fan?
Yeah, she is my biggest fan. She tries to come as many games as possible, but she's always watching, and after every game I get like a critique of like what I did wrong and stuff like that. But like she was hard on me, but it was out of love. Like, I knew it was all love. Like, she saw in me what I didn't see in myself, you know, at a young age. So like she was just pushing me to get to that point to where I am now.
Who's a tougher coach, Mom or Mark Few?
Coach Few's he's pretty tough, but my mom, like, she's tough. She's pretty tough too. I would say like it's different levels of tough. Like, I know Coach Few, that's his job. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mom loves me so much, but somehow she can still like get in my behind. I'm like, how do you love me that much but can still say these things or like do this? You know, so it's kind of equal. But I know they're both out of love though, so it's all good.
What a well-spoken young man right there.
Yeah, definitely. Smart kid, and he can talk with the best of them, we got told.
Yeah, and definitely loves his mama.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can relate. Well, how about that Efton?
Yeah,
Reed?
hey, I sat down with Reed earlier this week as well to talk about his basketball beginnings and what brought him to the Inland Northwest. Take a look. Have you always been the tall kid?
Yeah, I've always been the tall kid throughout all my classes. Since like kindergarten, I've always been way above all my other classmates and stuff. So it's just been like that my whole life basically. My mom just taught me how to, like, you know, embrace it and just embrace being the tallest man in the room. So it's really no biggie to me.
Take me through high school. You start off at Stewart, average a double-double, and then you make the decision to go down to IMG. What kind of precipitated that for you?
Well, it's kind of difficult because I love the Stewart School. I love my high school coach. I love the community at the Stewart School, and just love Virginia basically. And what really made me make that decision is COVID. So I didn't know if we were going to be playing games or not. So I just made that move just based on my basketball career and just trying to see, okay, what is the best decision for me? It was just me down there. My mom stayed, and my brother stayed in Virginia and stuff. Yeah.
What was that like for you? Was that your first time kind of on your own?
Yeah, for sure. Because I've always been with my family, my mom, my brother. So it was kind of different for me. But again, you know, you got to grow up sometimes, and you just got to make decisions that better yourself in the future. So that's what I did. Switching
to college then, obviously you got a lot of offers. You're an ESPN 5-star guy. Just take me through that whole process of getting recruited, and then how did you end up choosing LSU?
Man, when I first started out basketball, I didn't really know I was going to do all them, have all them accolades and stuff, but I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed, and I feel like, you know, that program could, you know, develop me to a pro, so that's why I went with. And plus, my IMG roommate, Brandon Murray, he was down there too, so I was like, shoot, why not? Let's do it, man. We played together great at IMG, so I feel like we could do it the same and dominate the SEC.
And when you moved from high school, from IMG to the collegiate level, and you started every game last year, how was that transition for you?
I mean, definitely, like, I had to adapt to it. It was kind of hard, you know, trying to figure out, okay, I can do this, but I can't do this, but I can, you know, I'm really good at this. So it's all about, you know, learning through and playing through your mistakes as a freshman in college basketball. You really learn a lot, and it's just because, you know, you go from being the big fish, you know, dominating everybody to, you know, okay, all right, I got to step up my game now because there's a lot of guys like me.
After your freshman season, you make the decision to transfer. Just kind of what went into that decision, and what made you think about moving elsewhere?
Well, you know, just the coaching staff got fired, so I mean, I would just like, let me just explore all my options, basically. I'm the type of person that will explore all my options and see what the best opportunity for me and opportunity present itself.
What was it about Gonzaga that kind of sold you on this place?
Just their history of bigs, honestly. Just their history and development of bigs, how they got their guys, you know, developed to the next level, and just the history, basically.
You went through the SEC schedule last year, but the non-conference schedule this year has been on a whole different level than this school is used to. Just so far, what's it been like for you, and seeing the type of competition you've been up against?
I think it's great for us early on, just seeing that competition early on, because it's going to help us in March for sure, because we're going to be like, okay, we've been here before. Let's get it together, you know?
Welcome back. You may remember this is not the first time the Zags have seen Alabama. The two teams faced off in the Battle of Seattle last season.
That's right. It was a raucous atmosphere at the brand new Climate Pledge Arena. The Tide jumped out to an 11-point lead midway through the first half thanks to 4 made threes from Jaden Shackelford.
The Zags would rally and cut the lead to 5 until Alabama went on a 15-4 run to end the half, capped off by this Shackelford 3, his 6th of the half, to open up a 16-point lead.
The Zags would cut the Bama lead to 6 with this Anton Watson 3 with 13 minutes to play, but Alabama once again went on a 9-0 run to establish a 15-point cushion.
Gonzaga roared back again and got the game within 4 before this vicious block from Drew Timme sent the place into a frenzy. However, the Zags would not capitalize on the momentum. J.D. Davison and Javon Quinterly hit back-to-back threes to seal the deal.
Alabama defeated the Zags 91-82. Shackelford finished with a game-high 28 points and was one of 3 Alabama players in double figures, along with Davison and Quinterly.
Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren both had double-doubles, and 4 Zags finished in double figures, but GU as a team was a ghastly 13 of 25 from the free throw line, which the Bulldogs obviously could not overcome.
Yep, and now the good news today, Jaden Shackelford and J.D. Davison, they are in the NBA, so there are 2 less weapons for the Zags to worry about. However, the Crimson Tide have reloaded, and 2 players in particular need to have Gonzaga's full attention, which brings us to our first key to today's game.
Yeah, Andrew, the Zags have to contain freshman wing Brandon Miller and junior guard Mark Sears. These 2 lead the Tide in scoring by a wide margin, an average combined for 33 points per game. Both are shooting almost 44% from 3 on the season so far as well, and we have already seen the Zags are susceptible to 3-point barrages. If the Zags can limit the high scoring potential of these 2, they will be in pretty good shape.
Yep, and the second key to today's game for Gonzaga is somebody please give Drew Timme some help. The senior forward has had to carry this team on his back offensively far too often this season, but he will need help if the Zags are going to pull off the upset in Birmingham. Now, Alabama is only allowing opponents to shoot 27% from 3 this season, so the Zags will have to attack the paint. This could be a great game to showcase the talents of Anton Watson, who was a perfect 4 for 4 from the field last season against the Tide. However, Alabama's best on-ball perimeter defender, Namari Burnett, is out today with a wrist injury, so there may be a little bit more room on the perimeter than usual for guys like Nolan Hickman and Julian Strother to exploit. Strother and Rasir Bolton were a combined 7 for 22 in last year's game, so they will need to be much more efficient in order for the Zags to win today.
Absolutely. The third key to this game is a strong effort from the Gonzaga bench. The bench sparked a lethargic Zags offense on Monday, and we could see a lot of minutes for Malachi Smith and Hunter Salas today, especially with Strother dealing with an illness. Mark Few spoke Monday about the inconsistency of his bench players and the need for someone to step up. Monday night's hero was Ben Craig. Started a spark for the Zags. Maybe he could do that like he did in the PK 85 against Purdue.
Yeah, one way or another, the Zags will need someone off the bench to step up and play big minutes to help provide energy and scoring.
All right, time is winding down for us. Let's finish the show with some predictions here. Andrew, who do you think is going to win this game?
Well, Travis, the Zags, I believe, will have some issues with Alabama's tough defense, but I'm going to take the Zags to pull off the upset 82-78.
We've got Andy in with us again. Andy, who you got?
Yeah, I'm taking the Zags here as well. It's going to be a really tough game for them, but obviously They want revenge here. They don't want this series to be 2-0 in favor of Alabama. They want to return the favor and defeat them. Not quite at home, but certainly closer to their home. I think we're going to see a really nice game, not just from Drew Timme, but from Gonzaga's secondary scores as well. And I think I'm going to take the Zags by about 6 or 7 points. It's going to be a close one.
You guys are making me public enemy number one. I've got Alabama in this one. I'd say maybe double digits. I don't see a breakout game for somebody to help Timme against this tough defense. That's it for our KREM 2 Gonzaga pregame special. The Zags are set to tip off today's big game against Bama at 10 a.m.
You can catch the game right here on KREM 2. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you later. Now we'll send it over to Inside College Basketball, which is in progress after this break.